Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Deutsche Bank taps Ripple to revolutionize global payments. Okay guys, let's get into it. Okay, real big news here, real big news. And so this is why I wanted to have this conversation with you guys, because just tapping on what I said before with regards to, XRP being utilized by banks. I've always said that, it's not going to be a thing where absolutely every single bank is going to turn around and use Ripple and XRP. But look, this is a huge bank. This is absolutely massive. This is a real big deal. So, what I've said to you guys before is it doesn't have to be absolutely every bank in the world who uses XRP for it to be successful, right? We can have a percentage of banks. We know that Brad Garlinghouse has said in the past that he believed that Ripple and XRP will be able to take something like 14% of Swift's volume. That would still be huge. And I don't know what his, time horizon was for that. But who knows if you was to expand that time horizon, what it could be, right? It could grow over time as well. And so, the main thing about this is that it doesn't have to have every single bank using it to be, massively successful. I mean, I guess it depends what you're talking about, your price point. If you're talking about the $10,000 stuff, then yes, okay, that's what you kind of need. But in terms of, just being more grounded and realistic, we could still get really good price action with this. Again, realistic price action, but just acknowledging the reality. And so I don't want to keep being negative on this, because this is a big thing. So let's get into this. So I'm just going to go through the key points, and then the other part is what it means for XRP, because again, I want to give you the realistic outtake of this. Okay, so key points: Frankfurt-based financial giant Deutsche Bank is increasingly adopting the payment technology Ripple, a cross-border settlement giant. The prominent bank aims to revolutionize global payments using blockchain technology. Traditional cross-border payments are facing criticisms for being slow, costly, and heavily dependent on intermediaries. Deutsche Bank is signaling a decisive shift away from that model by deepening its use of blockchain infrastructure built within the Ripple payment system. Additionally, Deutsche Bank is modernizing processes that historically relied on legacy networks such as Swift. Okay, real big stuff there. So the first thing that I'll say is they're using Ripple and XRP for actual cross-border payments, because you've got a lot of banks and companies now who are going more down the tokenization route. For me, I'm really happy to see that they're actually using Ripple and XRP for cross-border payments. Now, I will say this, it is talking about Ripple payments here, so we do just have to acknowledge with Ripple payments, it is a thing where it's a technology. So Ripple payments is a software, very similar to Swift. So Ripple payments is basically the messaging aspect of it. Now, it does utilize XRP, but it doesn't necessarily have to use XRP. So I just want you to bear that in mind, but I'm going to tell you why I don't think that's a big deal shortly on, okay? All right, so let's now get on to what it means for XRP. So I'm just going to go through this and then I'll break all this down. For XRP, deeper adoption of Ripple infrastructure by a global bank carries broader implications. While banks can use Ripple's technology without necessarily holding the token, expanded network usage increases visibility and potential demand for on-demand liquidity solutions that rely on XRP for rapid settlement. Even though XRP's price action remains tied to broader market conditions, greater institutional participation often strengthens its trajectory. As established banks test faster blockchain-based transfers using Ripple and the XRP ledger, assets linked to these networks could benefit from their adoption. In the meantime, XRP has not reacted to this development as broader crypto market sentiment remains bearish. It hovers around $1.42, down 4.5% in the past 24 hours. Okay, let's just get that last part out of the way. Look, I don't know how long you guys have been around, but I'll tell you this now. These kind of news headlines and stuff like that, it doesn't move price. It doesn't. And it won't. It won't. I've been here for 6-7 years now, roughly. And I've seen so much news where it's been hugely positive, great stuff happening. and it's never moved the price. What's going to move the price is basically, you know, actual adoption, supply and demand. It's actually stuff coming into action, not just headlines. And that does go for many crypto projects out here. There's a lot of stuff that you'll see going on. I mean, let's just be realistic. If we just look at last year, 2025, how positive was that for crypto as a whole? Yet we didn't really get the bull run you would expect. But yet crypto's future has never been more promising. Like, we had the government, the US government, actually trying to regulate crypto. They announced a Bitcoin reserve and a crypto strategic reserve. Like, there was so much positive things going on. Regulations were underway. But yet we had, I'm not going to say the worst year for crypto, but we had the worst bull run. If that is the end of the bull run, that was the worst bull run we've ever had, no doubt, unquestionably. So it's very strange, but it is what it is. And so, you know, you could look at that for all of crypto. That's got nothing to do with XRP specifically. But let's get into what we're talking about here about what this could mean for XRP. So yeah, as I was saying earlier, look, it said it here. I'll repeat it. I've said it myself before. You know, it doesn't mean that banks have to hold XRP to use Ripple payment. And even if they do use Ripple payments, it doesn't guarantee it's going to use XRP. So it could be, for example, they are going to use Ripple payments, and it could be to just swap fiat currencies. It could be to do fiat currency transfers and things like that. But I think XRP will be utilized a lot for this because it is the best option. It's as simple as that. Like, this is what David Schwartz said when he was talking about this. He was saying, look, banks don't have to use XRP if they don't want to. They don't have to hold XRP if they don't want to. They can use Ripple payments and just use, you know, stable coins and things like that. However, it's down to them to choose whatever they feel is the best option. Now, if you're talking about the best option is just to use XRP because it's the bridge mechanism, right? You can just transfer things for you instantly for obviously minimal cost. But that doesn't mean that they couldn't choose the other option. So it could be, for example, if they're still feeling weary about XRP, like, oh, I'm not so sure about that asset, I'd rather just use, you know, the stable coins or whatever, then they have that right to do that and have the power to do that. But we're not in that time anymore where crypto's future is uncertain. You know, we're not in that kind of period anymore. It's quite clear that crypto is here to stay. And so I do think personally, they will just go with the most convenient option because that's what it is. XRP is the most convenient option. Like, you could choose the other option of not using XRP, but you're actually adding friction into your life with that. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that that's a lot of friction because, you know, because it's all crypto technology now, a lot of these conversions and things like that will happen fast anyway. But why even put that inconvenience into your life when you can just use XRP and it will just do it all for you? Do you see what I mean? It's like, what's the easier option? And it's not like you've really got to worry anymore and thinking, oh, you know, XRP could just die and stuff like that. Like, that's not really likely at this point. You know, like, it's pretty clear to see that, you know, there's banks adopting XRP, tokenization is happening, there's going to be a crypto strategic reserve. Like, it's pretty clear to see that crypto is here to stay. And that doesn't mean that all crypto's future is here to stay. Obviously, there are going to be cryptos that won't survive regulations, that kind of thing. I'll be interested to see, for example, how meme coins survive now after regulations come out. I doubt they will. But this is where I'm saying, like, if you invested in the right asset, and to me, XRP is definitely one of them in my opinion, I think you'll be fine. You know, I think they will look at these types of networks like XRP and think, well, yeah, like, this is going to be a network that's going to be here for the long haul. So I feel like they'll have that confidence to just say, let's just use XRP. You know, like, we've got confidence in the market now. We've got confidence in crypto. Its future isn't as uncertain as before. We know it's a good asset, so why not use it? So yeah, for me personally, you know, I am just going to say it doesn't mean that these banks are now going to like hoard XRP. But at the same time, let me just add to this. I did a video very recently where I showed you that Goldman Sachs have admitted to holding, I think it was 100 and something million worth of XRP. Banks are starting to buy these assets. So we're actually at that point now where, yes, they don't have to buy them, but they are, right? And why are they doing that? Because they believe these are assets that are going to be valuable over time. So just because they don't have to hold XRP doesn't mean that they won't, right? It could be that Deutsche Bank will say, yeah, like, this XRP stuff is great. We're using it to modernize our, you know, our transfers, our global transfers. It's working absolutely great for us. We really believe in blockchain technology. XRP is doing great. Yeah, let's have some on our balance sheet. Why not? Why not? It's no different than them investing in gold or silver, etc., precious metals, whatever. It's no different than investing in stocks in a company. Like, yes, okay, you're not investing into a company, but it's an asset that can do things. It's an asset that you believe could revolutionize technology as we know it. So there's nothing wrong with investing in an asset that you feel has a very, a very bright future. That's what people do, right? So for banks, yeah, that's a way to hedge against, things like inflation and all that kind of stuff. If they feel like this is going to be something that's going to be worth more money over time, you invest in that for the long haul. And with banks, they are going to be the true diamond hands, right? Because they're not going to have the kind of people running those banks who are like, oh, the market's dipping, let's get out, we're scared. No, they've got the money to just wait. Like, they're not like retail. They're not like us. Do you know what I mean? So they have that patience to just see things through for many, many years. They haven't got to touch it. So they're not going to be spooked like the average fickle retail investor is. So yeah, as I say, for me, like, this is massive. I really do like the fact that I've seen this, especially as it's for cross-border payments, because I have been saying to you guys, it does seem like, the role of cross-border payments for XRP is dwindling down a little bit, because obviously we've seen that Swift are looking to use Ethereum to build up their own chain, and obviously they also want to use stablecoins as the main thing for cross-border payments rather than using a bridge currency. So I've always been a bit like, it's like my faith of it being a bridge currency. Not to say it was completely dead, but I was like, it's not going to be as big. But we can see here that there is a big bank that still wants to use it. So that is great. And again, that's not every bank, so we can see that. But it's a start, right? And I do think there will be many more banks. I don't think this is going to be a thing where, Deutsche Bank is the only big bank that will use XRP. I think there will be others. And as I said before, it's not going to be every bank for it to be successful. It really hasn't. So I'm definitely looking at this as a huge positive, and that could be a sign of things to come, because a bank as big as Deutsche Bank, you never know what other big banks could follow suit. You really don't. So yeah, really massive news. This is really great to see. I'll obviously keep an eye on this. If I get any further updates, I'll be sure to let you know. Thank you very much for watching this. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And hit that bell. Take care.